The day the aliens arrived changed everything. Big ships appeared in the sky over every major city on Earth. They were smooth and white, shaped like giant teardrops, and they hung in the air without making any noise. The world held its breath, waiting. Dr. Alan Murphy watched the news from his lab in Denver. He was a virus expert who spent his days looking through microscopes and working with test tubes. Alan was tall with kind eyes and a beard that was starting to show gray. He wasn't the kind of person who usually got excited, but today he couldn't sit still. "Are you seeing this?" asked Dr. Lisa Garcia, his research partner. Lisa was shorter than Alan, with curly black hair and bright eyes that missed nothing. "They're saying the aliens want to meet with world leaders tomorrow." Alan nodded, his eyes fixed on the screen. "I wonder what they want." 2 days later, Alan was shocked to find himself on a plane to New York. The United Nations had requested experts from various fields, and somehow his name had been on the list. Lisa sat next to him, reviewing files on her tablet. "I still can't believe they picked us," Alan said, looking out the window. Lisa smiled. "Well, you did help stop that virus outbreak in Africa last year. That probably got their attention." When they arrived at the UN building, security was tight. Soldiers stood at every entrance, and Alan had to show his ID 5 times before they let him in. Inside, the main hall had been transformed. Strange lights floated in the air, and the temperature was warmer than normal. A group of humans in suits stood nervously in the center of the room. Across from them were the aliens. Alan tried not to stare, but it was difficult. The Valorians, as they called themselves, stood taller than humans. Their skin was pale blue with faint patterns that seemed to shift in the light. They had 4 arms and large eyes that blinked sideways. "Welcome," said the alien in the front. Its voice was clear, but had an odd musical quality. "I am Ambassador Kelleth of the Valorian Alliance. We represent 7 advanced species who have formed a peaceful coalition across 12 star systems." The UN Secretary General stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth, we welcome you. We are honored by your visit." Ambassador Kelleth made a gesture with its upper arms. "We have been observing your world for some time. Your development has been interesting. We classify Earth as a Class 3 developing species." Alan noticed the slight pause. He glanced at Lisa, who raised an eyebrow. They both recognized the tone. It was the same one they used when explaining basic concepts to new students. The meeting continued with the aliens showing off some of their technology. They could make objects float in the air, create food from nothing, and showed images of their ships that could travel faster than light. Next to their achievements, human technology seemed like children's toys. As the aliens spoke about their medical advances, Alan noticed something odd. One of the Valorians in the back kept touching its neck. The blue skin there had a strange yellowish tint. Another alien nearby seemed to shake slightly when it moved. "Are you seeing that?" he whispered to Lisa. She nodded slightly. The discoloration and the tremors. Later, when the scientists were allowed to ask questions, Alan raised his hand. "Ambassador Kelleth, I couldn't help but notice some of your people seem to be showing signs of discomfort. Is there something affecting their health?" The room went quiet. Ambassador Kelleth turned all 4 of its eyes toward Alan, blinking slowly. "Your observation skills are adequate, Dr. Murphy. It is merely a seasonal condition that affects some of our people. Nothing our medical technology cannot manage." But Alan could tell the ambassador was not being completely honest. Years of working with patients had taught him to recognize when someone was downplaying symptoms. After the meeting, Alan and Lisa were invited to a smaller gathering with some of the alien scientists. The humans tried to hide how impressed they were with the aliens' knowledge, while the Valorians tried to explain things in what they thought were simple terms. "Your understanding of genetics is progressing well for your development stage," said a Valorian scientist named Dr. Ilrith. "In perhaps another century, you might begin to grasp the basics of molecular restructuring." Lisa forced a smile. "We look forward to learning from you." As they were leaving, Alan felt someone touch his arm. He turned to find a younger Valorian, looking at him nervously. "Dr. Murphy, the alien said quietly. "My name is Zeth. I am a medical officer. I need to speak with you privately." Alan glanced at Lisa, who nodded slightly. They followed Zeth to a quiet corner away from the others. "What you noticed today," Zeth said, voice low, "is not a seasonal condition. It is much more serious." The young alien looked around to make sure no one was listening. "For 2 years now, a disease has been spreading among our people. Our best medical minds cannot stop it." "Why tell us?" Lisa asked. "You clearly think human science is far behind yours." Zeth's skin patterns shifted rapidly, which Alan guessed might show emotion. "Because thousands have died already. Because our leaders are too proud to admit we need help. Because sometimes fresh eyes see what experts miss." Alan frowned. "But what could we possibly offer that your advanced medicine hasn't tried?" "I don't know," Zeth admitted. "But our traditional approaches have failed. The disease affects our neural membranes in a way we've never seen before. It starts with tremors and skin discoloration, then progresses to memory loss, loss of motor control, and eventually death." "How is it transmitted?" Alan asked, his mind already working on the problem. "We don't know that either," Zeth said. "It doesn't follow the patterns of any pathogen we understand." Lisa looked at Alan. He could see the same thought in her eyes that he was having. This sounded like some Earth diseases they knew well. "I'm sending information to your communication devices," Zeth said. "Please look at it. Maybe you'll see something we've missed." That night in their hotel room, Alan and Lisa looked through the files Zeth had sent. The data was complex, but certain patterns seemed familiar. "This looks like a prion disease," Alan said, pointing at the screen. "Like our Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease." Lisa nodded slowly. "Misfolded protein, not viruses or bacteria. No wonder their standard treatments aren't working." Alan sat back in his chair. The aliens who called us primitive might need our help after all. Outside their window, one of the alien ships glowed softly in the night sky, beautiful and advanced, beyond human understanding. Yet inside that marvel of technology, people were dying from something humans might actually understand better than they did. "We should talk to Zeth again tomorrow," Alan said. "I think we might have some ideas worth sharing." Lisa smiled. "Not bad for a Class 3 developing species, huh?" The next morning, Alan and Lisa requested a meeting with the Valorian delegation. They sat in a conference room at the United Nations building, waiting nervously. The walls were white and bare, except for a few screens showing Earth from space. "Do you think they'll take us seriously?" Lisa asked, tapping her pen against her notepad. Alan shrugged. "Probably not at first, but the evidence speaks for itself." The door slid open without a sound. Ambassador Kaleith entered, followed by Dr. Ilrith and Zeth. The ambassador's skin looked duller than yesterday, and the yellow marks on its neck were more visible. "Dr. Murphy, Dr. Garcia," Ambassador Kaleith said with a stiff nod. "Zeth tells me you have concerns to discuss." Alan took a deep breath. "Ambassador, we believe your people are facing an epidemic. Based on the data Zeth shared, we think it might be similar to diseases we've seen on Earth." Dr. Ilrith made a sound like a quiet bell ringing. Alan guessed it was a laugh. "How remarkable that you believe your primitive medicine could identify something our advanced systems missed." Lisa leaned forward. "With respect, Dr. Ilrith, sometimes looking at a problem from a different angle helps. The symptoms match what we call prion diseases on Earth." She opened her tablet and displayed images of brain tissue affected by human prion diseases, alongside the Valorian neural membrane scans Zeth had provided. "The patterns are similar," she continued. "Not identical, but similar enough that we think the same basic mechanism might be at work." Ambassador Kaleith studied the images carefully. "Explain." Alan pointed to the screens. "Normal proteins in your neural membranes are being folded incorrectly. These misfolded proteins then cause other normal proteins to misfold too, creating a chain reaction. Your medical systems might have missed this because you were looking for traditional pathogens like viruses or bacteria." The room was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Ilrith's skin patterns flickered rapidly. "Impossible," Dr. Ilrith said finally. Our diagnostic systems would have detected such a basic mechanism. Zeth spoke up. Unless we never programmed them to look for it. Our species hasn't encountered protein misfolding diseases in our recorded medical history. Ambassador Khalith's forearms made a complex gesture. If what you say is true, how serious is this threat? Lisa met the ambassador's gaze. On Earth, all known prion diseases are fatal. And based on these spread patterns, yours is highly transmissible. Without treatment, this could affect all 7 species in your alliance. The ambassador turned to Dr. Ilrith. Is this possible? Dr. Ilrith's skin had paled slightly. It is not impossible. But I maintain that these humans are overstepping. Their medical knowledge is centuries behind ours. Yet they identified a pattern we missed, Ambassador Keyleth said. Then turning to Alan and Lisa, what do you propose? We need to study this further, Alan said. We'd like to see your medical facilities and work with your scientists. 3 hours later, Alan found himself aboard a Valorian ship heading for a space station orbiting Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The journey that would normally take months took less than an hour with the aliens' technology. He sat next to Lisa in what the Valorians called a comfort pod, though it was shaped oddly for human bodies. Captain Samantha Hughes of the United Nations Space Administration sat across from them. She was a tall woman with short blonde hair and a serious expression. I still can't believe I'm on an alien spaceship, she said quietly. I know, Alan agreed. Yesterday I was in my lab in Denver. Today I'm heading to Jupiter. Zeth approached them, moving smoothly despite the slight tremor in its lower arms. We will arrive soon. I want to thank you for speaking up. Few of my people were willing to admit we needed outside perspective. The medical station was massive, a gleaming ring-shaped structure floating against the backdrop of Europa's icy surface. Inside, Alan was surprised by how familiar some of the equipment looked. Microscopes, sample containers, and testing equipment all had similar functions to Earth versions, even if they looked more advanced. Dr. Ilrith led them through the main research area, explaining their work with obvious pride. This analyzer can sequence an entire genome in seconds. These growth chambers can reproduce any biological environment in the known galaxy. Our computing systems can model molecular interactions with perfect accuracy. Lisa nodded politely but whispered to Alan. All this technology, and they still missed something as basic as protein misfolding. Dr. Ilrith showed them to a small laboratory area. You may use these facilities for your investigations. I've assigned 3 junior researchers to assist you. I must warn you that our leadership expects results quickly. This disease has now claimed over 10,000 lives. After Dr. Ilrith left, Alan turned to Lisa. 10,000? Zeth said thousands, but I didn't realize it was this bad. Zeth, who had stayed behind, lowered its voice. It's worse than they're telling you. Our projections show that without treatment, we could lose billions across all 7 species within a year. The disease has already spread to 5 of our worlds. Alan felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Then we need to get to work. Can you show us patient data? We need to see how the disease progresses and spreads. For the next several hours, they reviewed case files and examined tissue samples. The Valorian junior scientists watched with increasing interest as the humans used what must have seemed like basic techniques to them. What are you doing now? Asked one of the young Valorians, watching Lisa prepare a slide. This is immunofluorescence, she explained. We're using antibodies that glow under certain light to see if they bind to specific proteins in the sample. By evening, Alan had confirmed their initial theory. It's definitely a misfolded protein disease, he told Zeth. But there's something odd about how it's spreading. In humans, most prion diseases aren't contagious through casual contact. Lisa was studying a holographic display of Valorian physiology. What about these symbiotic microorganisms in your respiratory system? Do all Valorian species have them? Zeth's eyes widened. Yes, all 7 species evolved with them. They help us process certain gases in our atmospheres. Alan and Lisa exchanged a look. That could be our transmission vector, Alan said. The microorganisms might be carrying the misfolded proteins from person to person. He turned to Zeth. We need to look at samples from these microorganisms immediately. As they prepared to test this new theory, Dr. Ilrith returned to check on their progress. Have your primitive methods yielded any insights yet? He asked, not bothering to hide his skepticism. Actually, Lisa said, we think we've identified how the disease spreads. If we're right, we might be able to develop a treatment approach. Dr. Ilrith's skin patterns shifted rapidly. A treatment? When our best minds have failed? That seems unlikely. Alan looked up from his microscope. Sometimes the answer isn't about having the most advanced technology. Sometimes it's just about asking the right questions. The next day, a larger ship took Alan, Lisa, and a team of Valorian scientists to their home planet, Valor Prime. During the journey, Alan stared out the viewing panel at the stars streaking by. The ship moved faster than light, something he had always thought impossible. Amazing, isn't it? Said a voice behind him. Alan turned to see a man with glasses and a beard walking toward him. Dr. Greg Martinez, the man said, extending his hand. Protein specialist from California. They called me in when they heard your theory about misfolded proteins. Alan shook his hand. Glad to have you. We need all the help we can get. Greg nodded. I've spent 15 years studying protein misfolding diseases. Never thought I'd be using that knowledge to help aliens. When they arrived at Valor Prime, Alan gasped at the view. The planet had 3 small moons and vast blue oceans. The cities were built in perfect circles with tall white buildings and gardens everywhere. The medical center they were taken to was enormous, a gleaming structure that seemed to float above a lake. Inside, Valorian doctors rushed back and forth. Many patients lay in special chambers, their skin showing the yellow discoloration that marked the disease. Dr. Ilrith led them to a small laboratory separate from the main research area. You will work here, he said. Our main teams will continue their work on nanite treatments and genetic therapies. After he left, Lisa frowned. They're keeping us separate from their main research. Zeth, who had stayed with them, lowered his voice. Dr. Ilrith still doesn't believe humans can help, but I've arranged for all their research data to be available to you. For the next 2 days, the human team worked tirelessly. Greg examined the protein structures in detail, while Lisa studied the symbiotic microorganisms they suspected were carrying the disease. Alan coordinated their efforts and reviewed patient data. Look at this, Greg said, pointing to his screen. The misfolded protein has a structure similar to CJD in humans, but with this unusual fold here. Lisa looked up from her microscope. And I've confirmed the microorganisms are carrying the proteins. When they move from one host to another, they bring the disease with them. Alan nodded. So we know what it is and how it spreads. Now we need a treatment. On the 3rd day, Dr. Ilrith announced a major research conference where all teams would present their findings. The main Valorian teams went first, describing complex treatments involving nanomachines and genetic manipulation. Each team reported limited success at best. When it was Alan's turn to speak, he felt nervous. The room was filled with the brightest, scientific minds from 7 different alien species, all looking at him with doubt. Thank you for allowing us to help, he began. We've identified the disease as a misfolded protein condition similar to ones we have on Earth. These proteins affect your neural membranes, causing them to degrade. He showed simple diagrams explaining how the proteins misfolded and caused damage. The disease spreads through your symbiotic respiratory microorganisms, which carry the misfolded proteins between hosts. Dr. Ilrith interrupted. This is basic information. Do you have anything useful to contribute? A treatment, perhaps? Alan tried to stay calm. We're working on a compound that might stabilize the proteins and prevent further misfolding. It's based on treatments we've developed for similar diseases on Earth. Dr. Ilrith made the bell-like sound that Alan now knew was laughter. You expect us to believe that your primitive medicine has solutions that our advanced technology missed? This is a waste of valuable time. Many of the Valorian scientists nodded in agreement. Alan felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. As he returned to his seat, Zeth touched his arm. Don't worry. A few of us understand the value of your approach. That evening, a small group of younger Valorian scientists came to the humans' laboratory. "We want to help," said one named Marath. "Your ideas are different from our standard approaches. With their help, the work went faster. Greg designed a molecule that could bind to the misfolded proteins, preventing them from causing more damage. Lisa found a way to alter the microorganisms, so they couldn't carry the proteins anymore. The treatment would need to do two things," Alan explained to their new team. "First, stop the damage from proteins already in the system. Second, prevent the spread of more misfolded proteins." They worked through the night, testing different compounds. By morning, they had a promising candidate. "It works in the lab," Greg said, looking tired but happy. "But we need to test it on actual patients." Zeth helped them prepare a formal request for clinical trials. Usually, new treatments must go through years of testing, but with the crisis, emergency protocols apply. Dr. Ilrith reviewed their proposal with obvious skepticism. "This approach is too simple. Our research indicates that only a complex solution involving nanite delivery systems will work." But as they were arguing, news came that the latest Valorian treatment had failed catastrophically. 20 test patients had died when the nanites malfunctioned. Ambassador Kelleth, who had been overseeing the research efforts, looked grim. "Dr. Ilrith, we have no choice but to try all possible options. Approve the human protocol for testing immediately." Dr. Ilrith's skin patterns showed his displeasure, but he nodded. "Very well. They may test their compound on 5 terminal patients, for whom we have no other options." The human team prepared their treatment. It was a simple liquid that could be injected directly into the patient's circulatory systems. "Will it work?" Lisa asked quietly as they watched the Valorian medical team administer the first dose. Alan squeezed her hand. "I hope so." The first patient was an elderly Valorian with advanced symptoms. The yellow discoloration covered most of their neck, and their tremors were so bad they could barely move. After the injection, they all watched the monitors carefully. For the first hour, nothing seemed to happen. Dr. Ilrith began to look satisfied, as if their failure confirmed his beliefs. Then, slowly, the patient's vital signs began to stabilize. The tremors decreased slightly. By the third hour, the yellow discoloration had stopped spreading. "It's working," Greg whispered, afraid to jinx their success. Zeth's skin patterns shifted to bright, vibrant colors. "It's actually working." As the other 4 patients received the treatment with similar results, the mood in the room changed. The Valorian doctors looked at the humans with new respect. Even Dr. Ilrith seemed shaken. "This is just preliminary," Alan cautioned. "We need more time to be sure," but Ambassador Kelleth had seen enough. "Prepare more of the treatment immediately. We will begin wider testing tomorrow." As they left the treatment room, Dr. Ilrith approached Alan. "How?" he asked simply. "How? Did you find a solution when our best technology failed?" Alan thought for a moment. "Sometimes when you have very advanced tools, you look for complex answers, but nature often works in simple ways. You just have to be willing to see them." By morning, news of the successful treatment had spread throughout the medical center. Alan woke to find a crowd of Valorian scientists outside their laboratory, all eager to learn more about the human approach. "I never expected this," Lisa said, as they pushed through the crowd to reach their workspace. Greg laughed. "Nothing like success to change minds." Inside, Ambassador Kelleth was waiting for them with Zeth and several high-ranking officials. The ambassador's skin looked better, with less yellow discoloration. "The 5 test patients continue to improve," the ambassador said. "Their neural membrane degeneration has stopped completely. The medical council has approved full-scale treatment. Deployment." Alan felt relief wash over him, but also worry. "We need to make enough of the compound for thousands of patients, and we need to develop a delivery method that treats both the patients and neutralizes the carrier microorganisms." Dr. Ilrith entered the room. His manner was different now, less dismissive. "I have assigned 50 of our best scientists to help scale up production of your compound." "Thank you," Alan said. "But we also need to think about how to administer it efficiently." Injections work, but they're slow and require medical personnel. Lisa had been thinking about this problem. What, about a nebulizer? Something that creates a fine mist that patients can breathe in, that would treat both their systems and the microorganisms at once. Zeth's skin patterns brightened. We have similar technology. We call them atmosphere modulators. They're used in our living spaces to maintain optimal conditions. Perfect, Greg said. We could modify them to deliver the medication. The team worked quickly. The Valorian scientists, no longer skeptical of human methods, enthusiastically embraced the simple, direct approach. By midday, they had designed a modified atmosphere modulator that could deliver the medication as a fine mist. This way, patients can be treated in their homes, Alan explained to Ambassador Kalith, and the mist will also neutralize any carrier microorganisms in their living spaces. The ambassador nodded. Our factories are already producing your compound. The modified modulators will be ready by evening. As they prepared for full-scale treatment, Alan and his team were invited to the central medical facility. The main treatment ward was filled with patients in various stages of the disease. Some were barely affected while others lay still, their skin deeply discolored. We'll treat the most severe cases first, Dr. Ilrith said, now working alongside the humans as an equal. The first large-scale treatments began that afternoon. Medical teams went from bed to bed, setting up the modified modulators. A fine blue mist filled the room, settling gently on the patients and all surfaces. Alan watched anxiously. Everything had happened so fast. What if it didn't work on a larger scale? What if there were side effects they hadn't anticipated? Try not to worry, Lisa said, reading his expression. The science is sound. By evening, the results were clear. Monitors showed improvements in all patients. The most severely affected were stabilizing, while those with milder symptoms were already showing significant recovery. It's working, Zeth said, the patterns on his skin shimmering with excitement. Reports from other treatment centers show the same results. That night, the treatment was extended to all affected individuals on Valor Prime. Production facilities worked at full capacity to create enough of the medication for the other affected worlds. The next morning, Ambassador Kalith called for a meeting with the human team. The epidemic's spread has been halted, the ambassador announced. New cases have dropped to 0 in areas where the treatment has been deployed. Greg whistled. That's faster than we expected. The ambassador's hands made a gesture of respect. Your simple solution accomplished in one day what our advanced technology could not do in 2 years. Dr. Ilrith joined them, looking humbled. I must apologize for my earlier attitude. I was so certain that only a complex technological solution would work. I never considered that the answer might be found in basic science. Alan smiled. That's often how breakthroughs happen. Sometimes we overthink problems when the solutions are simpler than we imagine. The ambassador turned to a large screen showing data from across Valorian space. The treatment is now being deployed on all affected worlds. Recovery has begun throughout our alliance. Lisa studied the data. The rate of recovery is amazing. Your people's natural healing abilities combined with the treatment are working faster than we anticipated. Later that day, the human team was invited to a special session of the Valorian Council of Science. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from all 7 species of the Valorian Alliance. As the humans entered, the entire assembly stood in a gesture of respect. The head of the council, a tall Valorian with elaborate skin patterns, addressed them. For generations, we have believed that advancement was measured by technological complexity. Today, you have shown us that true innovation can be found in elegant simplicity. Alan felt uncomfortable with all the attention. We just approached the problem from a different angle. Sometimes fresh eyes see what experts miss. Nevertheless, the council head continued, you have saved billions of lives. The Valorian Alliance is forever in your debt. After the ceremony, Alan, Lisa, and Greg stood on a balcony overlooking the Valorian capital city. The 3 moons hung low in the sky, casting multiple shadows across the landscape. I still can't believe it, Greg said. Yesterday we were the primitives. Today we're the heroes. Lisa nodded. It's going to change a lot of things, not just for them, but for Earth, too. Ambassador Keleth joined them on the balcony. We've received word that the treatment is working on all worlds. The epidemic will be completely eradicated within days. That's wonderful news, Alan said. The ambassador's skin patterns shifted to colors they hadn't seen before. Our classification committee has been in emergency session all day. Earth has been reclassified as a Class 1 partner species, our highest designation. What does that mean? Lisa asked. It means we recognize you as equals, the ambassador replied. It means we will share technology, knowledge, and resources openly with your world. It means humanity has earned a place among the stars. Alan looked out at the alien city, thinking about how much had changed in just a few days. All because we looked at a problem differently. The ambassador made a gesture of agreement. You showed us something important. Advanced technology is valuable, but it can create blind spots. Your people have a unique way of thinking, of finding simple solutions to complex problems. As night fell on the alien world, Alan thought about Earth, about his small lab in Denver, about how he never could have imagined being here. The universe had just become much bigger, and humanity's place in it much more important. What happens next? He asked. The ambassador's reply was simple. We learn from each other, and together we face whatever challenges come next. 6 months had passed since the cure for the Valorian epidemic. Earth had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Alan looked out the window of the massive research vessel that orbited his home planet. From space, Earth looked peaceful, a blue marble against the blackness. Still can't believe this is my office now, he said to himself. The door slid open and Szeth entered. The young Valorian's skin patterns were bright and healthy, with no trace of the disease that had once threatened his entire species. The new researchers from Mars Colony have arrived, Szeth said. They're waiting in the main conference room. Alan nodded. I'll be right there. He took one more look at Earth before heading to the meeting. The interspecies medical exchange program that he now led had become the most prestigious scientific initiative in human history. Scientists from Earth worked side by side with researchers from all 7 Valorian species, sharing knowledge and solving problems together. The conference room was large, with special seating designed to accommodate the different body types of each species. Alan entered to find 20 new researchers, a mix of humans and Valorians, all eager to begin their work. Welcome aboard, he said. Each of you was chosen because you bring unique perspectives to our work. That's what this program is all about, combining different ways of thinking to solve problems that neither of our peoples could solve alone. After the meeting, Alan called Lisa on the communication system. Her face appeared on the screen, smiling from her office at Harvard University. How's the most famous professor on Earth? Alan asked. Lisa laughed. Busy. We have students from 3 different planets this semester. My assistant is still trying to figure out what one of them eats. Since their return from Valor Prime, Lisa had become the head of the new xenobiology department at Harvard. Her classes were the most popular at the university, with thousands of students attending in person and millions more watching online. How are the new medical scanners working? Alan asked. Amazing, Lisa replied. We can diagnose diseases in seconds now. Hospitals across Earth are reporting a 30% drop in death rates since they were installed. This was just one of the many technologies the Valorians had shared with Earth. Transportation, energy, food production, all had been transformed by alien science. And in return, the Valorians had embraced human approaches to medicine, art, and problem-solving. After talking with Lisa, Alan took a shuttle down to New York for a special United Nations session. The General Assembly Hall was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. At the podium stood Ambassador Keleth addressing the assembly. 6 months ago, our peoples were strangers, the ambassador was saying. Today, we are partners in the greatest exchange of knowledge and culture the galaxy has ever seen. Alan found his seat next to Greg Martinez, who had been working on adapting Valorian medical technology for human use. How's it going? Alan whispered. Greg grinned. Just got approval for the new cellular regeneration therapy. It can regrow damaged organs. Testing begins next month. On the stage, Ambassador Keyleth continued speaking. Today, I am pleased to announce that the Valorian Alliance has voted unanimously to provide Earth with full access to our faster-than-light travel technology. The room erupted in applause. This was the technology humans had wanted most, the ability to reach the stars. Additionally, the ambassador continued once the noise died down, we have selected Earth to host the first Galactic Medical Institute, where the brightest minds from all known intelligent species will work together to improve healthcare throughout the galaxy. After the announcement, there was a small reception. Alan found himself face-to-face with Dr. Ilrith, who now served as the chief science advisor to the ambassador. Dr. Murphy, Ilrith said, making the Valorian gesture of deep respect. I was just telling my colleagues about how your simple approach to the epidemic changed our entire scientific philosophy. Alan smiled. Has the new combined research method been working well? Beyond our expectations, Ilrith replied. By balancing our advanced technology with your more intuitive, observation-based approach, we've made more progress in 6 months than in the previous decade. Later that evening, Alan walked through Central Park with Ambassador Keyleth. The trees were blooming and the spring air was warm. People nodded respectfully as they passed, now used to seeing Valorians on Earth. I have something to show you, the ambassador said, leading Alan to a quiet spot by the lake. From a pocket, Keyleth pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared, showing a star system Alan didn't recognize. What am I looking at? He asked. We call it the Harmony System, Keyleth explained. Our long-range scanners detected signs of intelligent life there 2 days ago. Alan's eyes widened. A new alien species? The ambassador nodded. Yes, and the council has decided that the first contact team should include humans. Why us? Alan asked, though he already suspected the answer. Because you see things differently, Keyleth replied. 6 months ago, we thought our advanced technology made us superior. We would have approached this new species with the same attitude. Now we know better. Alan watched the hologram, thinking about how much responsibility this represented. When do we leave? 3 weeks, the ambassador said. You, Lisa, and Greg have all been selected, along with representatives from each Valorian species. As they walked back through the park, Alan thought about the journey ahead. From being called primitive to helping make first contact with a new civilization, all in less than a year. That night, he met with Lisa and Greg at their favorite restaurant in New York. The place had adapted to serve both human and Valorian food, which had become popular on Earth. To new adventures, Lisa said, raising her glass. Greg nodded. And to proving that sometimes the simple approach is the best. Alan looked at his friends, thinking about their incredible journey. You know what I find most amazing? It's not the technology or even the cure we found. It's that both our species learned something valuable from each other. Outside the window, a Valorian ship passed overhead, its lights twinkling against the night sky. On the streets below, humans and aliens walked together, no longer strangers, but partners in a much larger universe. I wonder what the new aliens will teach us, Lisa said, looking up at the stars now visible above the city. Alan smiled. And what will teach them?